Welcome back to the channel, guys. It is me, 80Star44, and we're going to give you guys that jam-packed international World Cup qualifiers content for you guys. We're going to be covering CAF in this one. We're going to be covering CONCACAF, CONEMBOL, and UEFA. So sit back and enjoy, man. Lots to discuss. And we make it all the way to the end, man. Shout out to you guys because that's a lot of effort. All right? So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the first confederation. That is CAF. So let's start with the first group we got here. We got Egypt on 16 points, Burkina Faso 11 points, Sierra Leone 8 points, Ethiopia with 6 points, Guinea-Bissau with 6, and Djibouti bottom with 1 point. The first game we got here is Guinea-Bissau versus Sierra Leone. I think this is going to end in a draw here. I think both teams have been kind of underwhelming, and yeah, I just don't really see much happening. Djibouti versus Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso should smash Djibouti. Djibouti are garbage, as we know. And the Egypt versus Ethiopia, Egypt should take care of business against them. We have Guinea-Bissau versus Djibouti. I'm going to actually say this ends in a Guinea-Bissau win. I think Guinea-Bissau will get the win. Sierra Leone versus Ethiopia, I'm going to say Sierra Leone gets a win. And Burkina Faso versus Egypt. Now, this is a game where I could see Egypt actually dropping points because Burkina Faso on the road is a bit of a tricky one. I do think Egypt will take care of business, and I think they'll get a draw, actually, this one. I don't think they'll get the road win here because also will hold them to a draw, and I think it will end at a stalemate. But I think Egypt should still be fine. That spot. Moving to Group B, we got here DR Congo on 13 points, Senegal 12, Sudan with 12, and then Togo with 4, South Sudan with 3, and Mauritania 2. So with the first game we got here, South Sudan versus DR Congo. I'm actually going to say DR Congo gets a win here. I think they'll get the job done. Even though it's on the road, South Sudan have not been great. And yeah, Mauritania versus Togo, I think this will be. I don't think much is going to happen. I think this will end in a draw. I don't see much happening in this one. Senegal versus Sudan. I think Senegal will take care of business against Sudan. I think they'll get the win here at home. It's going to be a close one. I do think Sudan will definitely push them, and I think they'll come up. I just think Senegal being at home, I just think they're going to have the initiative and get the job done. I could definitely see a draw. I think draw is definitely very possible. DR Congo versus Senegal, a very interesting one to call. This is a very difficult one to call. So both teams have been great. Senegal have not been that great, as we know, but I think it's going to end in a draw. I just think it's going to end in a draw. I just don't see much happening. I think the two teams will cancel each other out. Yeah, Togo versus Sudan. Sudan, man, they got to win this one. They got to win this one. The last qualifiers, I think they can see a last-minute goal to South Sudan, I believe. Yeah, I think Sudan will get the win here. It'll be an ugly win, but I think they'll get the win here. We know Togo at home could be a bit tricky, so I think Sudan will get the win, but it won't be. I don't think it'll be convincing. And Mauritania versus South Sudan. I think Mauritania will beat South Sudan at home, even though it really doesn't really. So yeah, it makes the group very interesting, man. Moving to Group C, we got South Africa 13 points, Rwanda with 8, Benin with 8, Nigeria with 7, Lesotho with 6, and Zimbabwe at the bottom with 4 points. So we have the first game we got here, Benin versus Zimbabwe. I think this is going to end in a Benin win. I think Benin is too good. I think Benin will get the job done against Zimbabwe. Lesotho versus South Africa. I think South Africa will get the win here on the road. And I think they'll do it. And yeah, I think they'll get the job done. The Nigeria versus Rwanda. Nigeria better beat Rwanda. They better beat Rwanda. I think they'll do it. Zimbabwe versus Rwanda. I'm going to say ends in a draw. I think this will end in a draw here. And South Africa versus Nigeria. This is a really big one. And I think if South Africa can get the win here, I'll put them in a really good position to qualify directly. This is a really difficult one to call, guys. But you know what? I'm not convinced with Nigeria. I think Nigeria is going to mess up. I think South Africa is going to do it, and I think it's over for Nigeria. I think it's over for Nigeria. If they do not win this game, they're not directly qualifying, and they're going to have to come through the second places. So I think South Africa will beat Nigeria. Benin versus Lesotho, I got Benin to win that one. So Nigeria, man, they better beat South Africa on the road somehow. I don't think it's going to happen. Group D, we got here Cape Verde with 13 points, Cameroon with 12, Libya with 8, Angola with 7, Mauritius with 5, Eswatini on 2 points. So we got the first game we got here, Angola versus Libya. I think Angola will get the job done. I think they'll beat Libya at home. I think they'll do it. Mauritius versus Cape Verde. I think Cape Verde will get the win here. Cameroon versus Eswatini. I think Cameroon will beat Eswatini. Libya versus Eswatini, I'm going to say ends in a draw. Cape Verde versus Cameroon. Now, this is a really interesting one here, guys. A really, really interesting one. And I think if Cape Verde are really serious about trying to directly qualify, they have to beat Cameroon at home. Do I think they'll do it? I think they'll fall short. I just think Cameroon have too much quality. Yes, it can be a bit inconsistent at times, but I do think Cameroon will get a draw, and I think this will be a good result for Cameroon. Whereas Cape Verde, it may not be as good. And then Angola versus Mauritius, Angola should win that one. So moving to Group E, we got here Morocco on 15 points, Tanzania on 9, Zambia 6, Nigeria 6, and Congo with 0 points. So I believe Morocco, they could qualify this month if they win their games, as they should. We got Congo versus Tanzania. I'm going to say ends in a draw. I think this will end in a draw here. Morocco versus Niger. Morocco should obviously beat Niger. Tanzania should beat Niger. And Zambia versus Morocco. I actually think Morocco will draw points here. I think they'll draw this one. And I think that will be. I think Morocco will just kind of, I think Morocco will just draw points. Zambia will hold them to a draw. I rate Zambia highly, so I think this will end in a draw here. Group F, we got here Ivory Coast on 16 points, Gabon on 15, Burundi on 10, Kenya on 6, Gambia on 4, and Seychelles on 0. Man, Gambia has been really poor in the qualifying cycle. Seychelles versus Gabon. I think Gabon will get the win here on the road. Kenya versus Gambia. I think this will end in a draw. Don't really see much happening here. Ivory Coast versus Burundi. Ivory Coast should win this one. Kenya versus Seychelles. I think this is going to end in a draw here. Actually, no, I think Kenya will actually beat Seychelles. Actually, I think Kenya will beat Seychelles here. Gabon versus Ivory Coast, I'll say ends in a draw here, which will be a great result for Ivory Coast, but not so good for Gabon. And then Gambia versus Burundi, I'm going to say Gambia at least beat Burundi, man. Come on, at least beat Burundi at home. Got Group G, we got here Algeria on 15 points, Mozambique on 12. We got Botswana on 9, Uganda on 9, and Guinea on 7. Guinea's been really awful in the qualifying cycle. Somalia with 1 point. We got Algeria versus Botswana. Algeria should win this one. Somalia versus Guinea. I think Guinea will win this one. Uganda versus Mozambique. I'm going to say ends in a draw. Mozambique versus Botswana. Mozambique to win. Uganda versus Somalia. Uganda to win. And Guinea versus Algeria. This is a really big one. But I do think Algeria will get the win here, as Guinea have been unconvincing. Not been great. But I do think Algeria will get the win there. Moving to Group H, we got Tunisia on 16 points, Namibia on 12 points, Libya on 10 points, Equatorial Guinea on 7, Malawi on 6 points, and Sao Tome Principe on 0 points. So I actually move my cursor there so you can see the points there. We got Sao Tome Principe versus Equatorial Guinea. I think Equatorial Guinea will get the win here. Tunisia versus Liberia. Tunisia should win this one. Namibia versus Malawi. I think that Namibia will win this one. Equatorial Guinea versus Tunisia. I say ends in a draw this one. I think in a draw. Tunisia aren't really that great on the road as compared to at home. Malawi versus Liberia. I'm going to say ends in a draw there. And Namibia versus Sao Tome Principe. I think Namibia will win this one. Moving to Group I, we got here the final group. We got here, guys, it is Ghana on 15 points, Comoros on 12, Madagascar with 10, Mali on 9, and Central African Republic with 5. And Mali, man, very disappointing for them, man. Chad on 0. We got Chad versus Ghana. Ghana should win this one. Madagascar versus Central African Republic. I think Madagascar will win this one. Mali versus Comoros is a big one, guys, and I think Mali will beat Comoros at home. Central African versus Comoros, I'm going to say ends in a I think Comoros will actually get the win here. I think they'll get this one. Madagascar versus Chad, I'm going to say it ends in a draw. And Ghana versus Mali, I do think Ghana will beat Mali at home. So, yeah, man, there you have it, man. Those are my CAF World Cup qualifier predictions the month of September. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and we'll see how many of these I get right. So now it's time for me to do my CONCACAF predictions for the September window, guys. So we have Group A, we got Panama, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Suriname. And we got Suriname versus Panama. I'm going to say this right now, I think Panama's going to win this one. Yes, I know Suriname is a good team, and I know Suriname is a team that a lot of people are hyping and maybe could do something. There's a lot of unknown. Maybe there's a lot of potential there, but I just feel like Panama's more experienced, more professional about it. I think they'll get the job done. I could maybe see Suriname getting a draw, but I don't think they're going to win. I think at best case is a draw, but even still, I think Panama have way too much for them. I think Panama should win this. Guatemala versus El Salvador. I'm going to be honest with you guys. This game is going to be awful. This game is going to be trash. I think it's going to be awful, but I do think Guatemala is going to win this one. El Salvador's attack is just non-existent. They cannot score to save their life, and I think Guatemala will just sneak out with a 1-0 win. I will say this, though. If you're El Salvador, you need to get a draw in this game. If you lose this game, that's really bad. Really bad. I think it's really big for Guatemala. El Salvador versus Suriname, I'm going to say it ends in a draw, 0-0 draw, which I think will be a great result for Suriname. And if you're El Salvadorian, that's going to be a really bad result for Panama versus Guatemala. I think Panama's got this. So I think the game that will be the most exciting here on September for Group A is probably going to be Guatemala versus El Salvador, because I feel like that game is so interesting to call. I feel like anything can happen in that game. The rest of the other games, we kind of have like I think it's going to be obvious outcome, but I think that one anything can happen there. That's what makes it very exciting. Moving to Group B, we have Jamaica, Curacao, Trinidad, Tobago, Bermuda. Group we have Bermuda versus Jamaica. I think Jamaica should take care of it. They should be able to beat Bermuda. Now, I will say this though: we know with Jamaica guys, they tend to disappoint. So it wouldn't shock me if Jamaica drops points or even dare lose this game. Like even if Jamaica lose, I wouldn't be shocked. But Jamaica have far too much quality. They should be able to beat Bermuda. Would expect. Trinidad and Tobago versus Curacao. I think this will be a really close one, guys. I'm going to say it ends in a draw, a 0-0 draw, and I think that will be the great result for Curacao. And even though it's not going to be a good result for Trinidad, I think if Trinidad don't lose this, that's still great. So I'm going to say it ends in a draw. Jamaica versus Trinidad and Tobago. Jamaica should be able to beat Trinidad at home. And Curacao versus Bermuda. Curacao should beat Bermuda. I think the game that's the most interesting here is probably Trinidad and Tobago Curacao because I really do feel like whatever happens this game could have strong implications on second place. And maybe even Bermuda versus Jamaica could be one to look out for. Maybe a Jamaica slip up as it could happen. Um, it could make things interesting. But I think Trinidad and Tobago Curacao is a much better game. And then finally, we have Group C. We got here Costa Rica, Honduras, Haiti, Nicaragua. Haiti versus Honduras. I'm going to say it's going to end in a draw, neutral venue. Haiti obviously cannot play at home due to what's going on in their home country. And yeah, I think this will end in a draw, which I think will be a great result for Honduras. And if you're Haiti, you need to win this one desperately, even as though you're the home team, quote unquote. Nicaragua versus Costa Rica. I think Costa Rica will get the win here. I think they're far too good for Nicaragua. I think Nicaragua will lose. I don't think Nicaragua are bad by any means, but I just think Costa Rica have far too much quality. And I think Costa Rica will beat Haiti, and I think Honduras will beat Nicaragua there. So I think the game that I think is the most interesting here is probably Haiti versus Honduras. Even though I do think Haiti's kind of handicapped by the fact they're not playing at home, they're playing at a neutral venue. I still think that the two teams are kind of roughly around the same level. So I think that's going to be a very interesting one to call out for. So there you have it, man. That is my CONCACAF predictions. Let me know your predictions in the comments below. Yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy. Welcome back to the channel, guys. It is me, 8744, and today, guys, we'll be doing our final preview of CONEMBOL World Cup Qualifiers 2026. And of course, I Joe my rank. He's a great friend of mine. And yeah, well, it's good to have you rank for the final preview of World Cup Qualifiers 2026 for CONEMBOL.
Well, thank you for having me here. Yeah, it's been a long journey all the way back to a few years back when this journey began, trying to qualify once again to the World Cup with the expanded format. Many teams like having hopes of qualifying, and yeah, we'll try to see what the final teams to make it into the World Cup are going to be, and especially who's going to claim that intercontinental playoff spot, which I think is the main talking point this window.
Yeah, for sure. So before we even get on the matches and stuff, let's give a quick refresher of the table. As you can see right here, RGS first with 35 points, and I think they pretty much locked first place. So
yeah, it's guaranteed.
Yeah, so RGS the best in South America. Not really surprised. They won the most recent Copa America, and of course they're defending World Cup champions. Not really surprising there to say. 35 points, 19 goal difference. What is maybe a little surprising though is the fact they've lost 3 games, which you would think like as the best team they would have lost the fewest games. So maybe that's a little surprising. But other than that, it's not really anything else that surprising there. Right, Rank?
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, compared to the last qualifying cycle, in the last qualifying cycle towards Qatar, Argentina went unbeaten. Like both Argentina and Brazil went unbeaten in that campaign. But in this one, Argentina actually picking up more points because we actually picked up more wins despite us losing those 3 games. We lost to Uruguay at home, we lost to Colombia away, and we lost to Paraguay away. Those are the 3 games that we lost, but we also had some memorable moments like getting the double on Brazil, both beating them at the Maracanã and then the 4-1 battering here at the Estadio Monumental. And yeah, some awesome performances along the way. And I think that the team has looked fantastic, even though some people tried to claim that Argentina was on a bit of a decline. Argentina has still performed to a wonderful level in this World Cup qualifiers, which we know that they are very, very competitive. Every team in CONMEBOL is super tough. And yeah, Argentina has shown once again that we are such a dominant side with a lot of variants that we can play. Like there are a lot of players that we can rotate. The depth on this squad is amazing. And yeah, there are still some question marks to some positions going into the World Cup, but maybe this window will give us a better look at how the team is going to look in just a few months in the World Cup itself.
Yeah, for sure. What's also really impressive is the fact that Argentina qualified outstanding with their 2 tough games with Uruguay and Brazil, and managed it without Messi. So,
yeah,
and a lot of people said Messi is like carrying Argentina. A lot of people said that stuff, and we saw pretty much Copa America last year. Messi wasn't really that amazing, and they still won without him. Well, I mean, still won without him being at his best. Let me put it this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important to note. Then we got Ecuador, second place, which is actually pretty crazy. Ecuador is the second best team in South America. Obviously, we know 2 match days to go. Still, they may not finish second, but to be in this high position before the final 2 match days is pretty incredible, I have to say. Their defense is outstanding with 5 goals conceded. I think the only worrying thing for Ecuador is that attack. 13 goals is really poor. It's really poor.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, we have to consider as well that Ecuador started this campaign with -3 points because they were deducted 3 points when last qualifying cycle because of the inscription of Byron Castillo back then. So actually, the fact that Ecuador are in this position, they should be on 28 points. Yeah. So it's actually really impressive that despite the 3-point deduction, they are ahead of the likes of Brazil, Uruguay, and Colombia. So very, very impressive what Ecuador has done, only conceding 5 goals in 60 matches. Like, it's incredible, especially considering the type of opposition they've gone up against. But I guess it's no surprise when you consider the talent that they have in the defense with William Pacho, with Piero Hincapié, with Felix Torres, and then you have the likes of Moises Caicedo in the midfield to kind of be that anchor right there helping Ecuador. But like you said, yeah, the attack hasn't been that impressive, only 13 goals as well. They're still in a great position. They've obviously already qualified to the World Cup, but the attack is going to be the main talking point for Ecuador because with how elite their defense and their midfield is, they're going to be a tough side to go up against for any team in the world, but they need to figure that attack because otherwise it's going to be difficult for them to score goals past quality opposition once they're at the World Cup.
Yeah, unfortunately, draws won't really be great at the group stage. You got to get a win. So I do think the draws could actually help with the knockout stage, if it goes to pens and stuff like that. But group stage, you got to get wins. So, yeah. But yeah, moving to Brazil. Brazil, man, 25 points. They had a very bad start to the qualifiers. They didn't have a great start, and but they picked up form, and now they're third in the table, which is pretty good, ahead of Uruguay and Colombia. So, what's there to say with Brazil, man? And they obviously have their new coach Ancelotti now. So.
Yeah, obviously. There were a lot of question marks around Brazil. They began losing a few games. They lost at home for the very first time in a qualifier campaign against Argentina, which was very, very impressive. And they lost games that they shouldn't have lost, like away to Paraguay, or like they dropped points at home against Venezuela, for example. So it was like pretty bad at some point for them. They lost to Uruguay as well. So it was looking really bad for Brazil, but in the last window, they actually managed to pick up some wins, some crucial points now that they've appointed Ancelotti, and that actually pushed them to qualify to the World Cup, which I think was never in question. Brazil was always going to qualify to the World Cup, especially with the expanded format. But, it was good for them that they managed to do so with still 2 games to go. And yeah, now for Brazil, the question mark is going to be how much can Carlo improve the squad and the team so that they are ready for the World Cup. But because we know that for Brazil, the objective is always to win the World Cup. But with the way that they're looking, that looks like a bit difficult at the moment. They definitely need to sort out the midfield. The midfield is like the main talking point because I don't know how you're going to hold up against the likes of France or Germany when you have a double pivot of Bruno Guimaraes and Joelinton, because that might work for Newcastle, but for Brazil, it's going to be difficult. And obviously, who's going to be that number 10 now that Neymar is like out of form and not called up? Who's going to be in that number 10? Is it going to be like Paquetá or Mateus Cunha, Rafinha? Who's going to be in the number 10? It's a huge question mark for Brazil. Who's going to be the creator?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, moving to Uruguay. They were like one of the most informed teams in South America before the Copa America, and then after the Copa America, they kind of gone downhill. So which is kind of there. So Uruguay kind of like in the middle, which is kind of a shame because we would expect, like, given how good they were before the Copa America, to be like second or third, and now they're like fourth. It's just kind of has slowed down, kind of underwhelming to say.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, Uruguay, like, not guaranteed yet, mathematically guaranteed to be at the World Cup, but they're going to be at the World Cup. Like, they literally need to pick up 1 point and they'll be there. And their last 2 games are literally Chile and Peru. So, like, Uruguay are going to qualify to the World Cup. There's no question about that. But yeah, like you were saying, they were in amazing form before the Copa America. They beat Argentina on the road, which was like very impressive. And they were playing some great expanding football under Bielsa. And after the Copa America, or during the Copa America itself, like, everything seems to have imploded. And yeah, there's been like a fallout with the media and Bielsa because they don't really support his style. There's like a lot of Uruguayan players have dipped in form. We saw the likes of Darwin Núñez dip in form, not get as many minutes in Liverpool. Now he's gone to the Saudi League. We saw Ronald Araujo dip in form. So this type of players not really having the best performances for Uruguay has really hurt their national team, and not having enough options in the attack, not really having a system that works for them. There are a lot of question marks around Uruguay and how they're actually going to perform at the World Cup. And yeah, I think that Bielsa is under pressure, and he needs to get up results, but he needs to show performances against the 2 worst sides in CONMEBOL at the moment to just look convincing going into the World Cup, which is going to be a huge objective for them.
Yeah, for sure. Moving to Paraguay. Paraguay, yeah, they've been great under Gustavo Alfaro, and they finally got the first loss with him as a manager, which was pretty crazy to say, like how long the unbeaten streak was. And yeah, it had to come to an end at some point when you play Brazil away. So, credit to them, though. They have managed to pick up form. And the fact they're above Colombia is crazy, considering how Colombia were, like, I think the last team unbeaten in the qualifiers. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Like, that's crazy to say.
Yeah, obviously. No, the revival of Paraguay has been something that needs to be studied, because we went from them not being able to score a goal in the past qualifiers, where they were absolutely disgusting to watch. Then at the start of these qualifiers, they were also looking super bad, and they were like around where Bolivia and Peru are currently. Like, they were also sitting towards the bottom. And then Gustavo Alfaro comes in and they get a win, draw, win, draw, win, draw. They went unbeaten for such a long time, and they climbed into this position where they are actually about to make their first World Cup since 2010, which is crazy to say. Like, it's been a long time coming for Paraguay to actually make another World Cup. And yeah, they're in a great position. They are going to be there as well because they only need 1 point. And yeah, it's fantastic to see what Alfaro has done to this Paraguay side. I still think that they are limited in some regards. Like, there's still question marks around the attack, or how are they going to perform against the European sides, because maybe what has worked for them against the South American sides doesn't really work against the European. But for now, Paraguay have looked fantastic. They are in great form. Like I said, they just picked up their first loss under Alfaro. But so far, it's looked fantastic. And yeah, they're also going to be at the World Cup. And they are one of the teams that you definitely don't want to go up against, because they're super tough. And yeah, I think that they are one of the teams to watch at the World Cup.
Colombia, man. What's happened to this national team, man? Like, this national team was so good. And then all of a sudden, like, it's like kind of like Uruguay. Like, they were so good before the Copa America. And then after the Copa America, they've just kind of fallen off. Like, I don't know what's happened to them. Like, was the Copa America really at their peak? Like, I feel like they just peaked there.
Yeah, it kind of looked like they were peaking at the right time. Like you were saying, they were on a crazy unbeaten run when they went into that Copa America final. Like, the Copa America final is when they actually lost that unbeaten streak that they were on, which was incredible. Colombia was looking fantastic. With the defense looked solid. Daniel Munoz, John Locumí, Davinson Sanchez. You had Richard Rios being so crucial in the midfield. James Rodriguez seemed like he was reviving his career. He was getting assist after assist after assist. And Luis Diaz is just a fantastic bowler for them as well. He's still like the shining light of this team. But yeah, after the Copa America, it has fallen off. And now it's been... their last win was against Chile, like all the way back in, I don't even remember. It's been so long. They've lost. They haven't won in 6 games, which is crazy. And also, like, the matter of the way that they've dropped points, because they lost to Uruguay conceding a last-minute winner. They lost to Ecuador at home when they were up a man for like 80 minutes. They lost.
Crazy.
They lost to Brazil with a last-minute winner. They dropped a 2-0 lead against Paraguay. They drew 0-0 with Peru at home, and then they drew with Argentina when they were leading and being up a man because Enzo Fernandez had been sent off. So like they've been dropping points in such a shocking fashion just because it seems like their mentality collapses in games, and that is something that cannot happen. It also feels like the dressing room does not trust Nestor Lorenzo anymore. There's been a fallout between the players and the coach, and it shows. The attitude has not been there. There's no confidence. John Duran, who was supposed to be like their main striker, has been having attitude problems both in the national team and at club level. So it's all a mess for Colombia. I will still be shocked if they didn't make the World Cup because we're going to look at their fixtures. But yeah, the fact that they were like the last unbeaten team and now they're in this position where they are just above the Intercontinental playoff spots, it's just shocking. And even though I think they're going to make the World Cup, I have huge question marks about how they're going to perform at the World Cup.
Yeah, they're lucky the World Cup expanded. They're very lucky.
Imagine if it was 4 direct teams and 5th place was the Intercontinental playoffs, like they'd be in trouble right now.
Yeah, they're very, very fortunate. Moving, we have Venezuela, man. 18 points. They finally got some wins in the last qualifying cycle, which is great to see because I think prior to that they were like not picking up any wins at all, which was kind of sad to see. So they finally got some wins there to put them in a really close position for the playoffs. So
yeah, obviously Venezuela was one of the main talking points during this entire qualifying cycle because, as we know, Venezuela is the last team from CONMEBOL that has not made a World Cup, and so them being in a position where they were in the direct qualifying spots for a while was massive because they are always the underdog. But yeah, after that, they went like in a dip of form and they were picking up a lot of draws and some losses away from home as well. They're still unbeaten at home, but at home they were only picking up draws. And yeah, it wasn't until they were able to beat Peru. And then most recently, they were able to beat Bolivia at home, which was a massive win, like a 6-pointer basically. But even those wins weren't convincing because Peru still had chances and they needed a penalty to win. And then against Bolivia essentially self-destructed with an own goal at the start of the game, and that allowed Venezuela to win. But the performances have not been convincing from Venezuela whatsoever. And even though they are in a great position now to potentially clinch that Intercontinental playoff spots, even if they make it there, I don't know if I really favor Venezuela to make it into the World Cup afterwards. They need to perform this window to secure that Intercontinental playoff spots. And after that, the performances need to improve if they want to make their first ever World Cup.
Yeah, because like the playoffs they can play against an African nation, an Asian nation, like it's going to be different. It's not going to be easy. So, yeah. As finally Bolivia, we got here. Bolivia, man, we just know they're just home merchants. We just know they're home merchants. But they did make up that W against Chile, though.
Yeah,
which is crazy to say. that probably speaks how bad Chile are. But yeah, Bolivia, man, that goal difference is so bad. -16. It's actually crazy. They have the worst goal difference. But
they have the worst goal difference, and they have also by far the most goals conceded, like even more than Chile. But I guess that goes to show like the difference of Bolivia. Like away from home, so terrible that they get battered pretty much every game that isn't against Chile. And then at home, they are fantastic and they can take on anybody. But yeah, it's been up and down for Bolivia this qualifying cycle, and now they are only 1 point behind Venezuela in the Intercontinental playoffs. We know that Bolivia hasn't made a World Cup since 1994, which was also in the United States. And so it would also be massive if Bolivia could make it into the Intercontinental playoff spots. It would be a massive storyline. We know that even if they make it there, it's going to be super difficult because they're not going to have the altitude advantage unless it's played like in Mexico City or something, which also has altitude. But yeah, it's tough for Bolivia, but they still have a chance. And as long as they have a chance, they have to play their cards right. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they can come up with this window to try and over top Venezuela for the Intercontinental playoff spot.
All right, for the last two teams, we'll just lump them together. Peru and Chile, they're both finished. They're both washed. They both need younger players. They got to get rid of the old guard. I mean, what's there to say?
Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly, because it seems like both Peru and Chile are in a similar position where their current team is not good enough. They were still relying on the old players that gave them their glory days. Like for Peru, the players that took them for a World Cup for the first time in decades, and then for Chile, the people that gave them their first two trophies, their first two Copa Americas, like the golden generation. But they've been clinging onto that, and yeah, it hasn't worked out. There's no really young talent developing in the lower ranks, and yeah, it has showed in how they have stagnated. And despite changing coaches multiple times, it has not worked out for them. And yeah, they are not going to work out. It's sad to see their decline, but yeah, they'll have to try and come back stronger next time, because when the expanded format, you just need to pick up some wins, and you have a chance to make the World Cup. But they'll have to try and go again next cycle, because in this one, yeah, they're absolutely finished.
Yeah. Anyways, let's go to the matches now. We got Uruguay versus Peru. Let's just cut to the chase. Uruguay is winning this.
Yeah, Uruguay should win. Again, like I mentioned before with Uruguay, the question is going to be how you perform. What the people are going to be looking at is the performance for Uruguay. There's no doubt that they're going to win that game, but it needs to be in a convincing fashion. Otherwise, we're going to start looking at Uruguay. Yes, Uruguay may qualify to the World Cup with this game, but if it's not convincing, it's going to look really bad once you go to the World Cup and you have to go. Obviously, we saw that at the last World Cup, Uruguay got grouped. So now they have expectations to do better and be at the level that we expect Uruguay to be in, that they are clearly a knockout team in the World Cup. But yeah, with the quality that they have, so far the performances have not been that great.
Yeah, for sure. Moving to Colombia versus Bolivia. This is another easy one. Colombia should win this.
Yeah, exactly. This is why I think that Colombia are not in danger of not making it to the World Cup, because they have this freebie, which is Bolivia at home. So even in the horrendous state that Colombia is in currently, they will still beat Bolivia at home and make it into the World Cup. But again, it's a question about the performance. And dude, if Bolivia could get anything out of this game, it would be massive for them. But we're going to have to see how it plays out. If maybe the nerves of Colombia playing at home are going to get to them, and maybe Bolivia can steal something. But no, the realistic expectation should be that Colombia is going to win and qualify to the World Cup as well.
Now, this might be the most interesting match in match day 17. Paraguay versus Ecuador. Now, this is a really difficult one to call. I think this is probably the game that I think could go either way. Anything can happen. The other games, I feel like we have an obvious outcome. But this one, I don't know what to say. I think for me, though... I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think I was going to play it safe. I'll just say draw. I can't decide.
Because, yeah, like you were saying, all the other games pretty much in match day 17 have a clear winner. This one, super, super tight. We know we have storylines because obviously Gustavo Alfaro, the coach of Paraguay, was previously the coach of Ecuador.
Oh, yeah.
The World Cup in 2022. So we know Alfaro is loved by the Ecuadorian fans, but he had a fallout with the federation. So potentially there's some beef there that was left unsolved, and we'll have to see if it comes up. It's going to be a battle of styles. We know that both sides are great defensively, but don't have the best offense. If I was a betting man, this is like a clear 0-0 draw. But we're going to see if somebody has a moment of brilliance and can break the deadlock. As of now, I think that it's going to be like a battle of styles, and yeah, I could definitely see a draw playing out in this one.
Yeah, 0-0 draw seems like a perfect score for this game.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving to Argentina versus Venezuela. Yeah, even though Argentina's already qualified, they have nothing to really play for. Argentina's still very strong at home, and I think Argentina's got this. Even with their B team, I think they're still probably going to win this.
Yeah, I expect Argentina to win this game as well. Even though I have some sympathy for Venezuela, obviously, but I think that if they could get anything out of this game, would be fantastic, because we know how strong Argentina is at home. And also I think that Argentina will be motivated to some regard, because after this game, Argentina is going to play on the road. And after that, we're only going to have friendlies away from Argentina in preparation for the World Cup, and also the Finalissima against Spain. And so what this means is that this potentially is the last home game for Lionel Messi for the national team.
Ooh.
So that is a huge talking point right here. And so I think that the players are going to be super motivated. Messi himself is going to be super motivated for this game to try and live on a high note in front of the home crowd ahead of what's going to be the World Cup. So yeah, I think that Argentina is going to win this game, and it's going to be the proper send-off for Messi, in my opinion.
Yeah, next up is Brazil versus Chile. Brazil should win this. Like this shouldn't even be. I would be surprised if Chile gets something.
Yeah, obviously. I think that Brazil are the heavy favorites in this one. But similar to the Uruguay game, it's going to come down to the performance. Like, we know how demanding the Brazilian fans can be. We saw them whistling the fans multiple occasions during this qualifying campaign because the performances for Brazil have just not been good enough. They need to show something better at home against Chile. And yeah, we're going to have to see what the tactics from Carlo are going to be, what the lineup is going to look like. We saw that he had a very interesting selection of players. No Rodrigo, no Vini. So we're going to have to see what the team actually looks like for Brazil. And yeah, the performance is going to be what the Brazilian players are going to be judged upon by the local fans.
Yeah, for sure. Moving to match day 18, we got Ecuador versus Argentina. I'm going to say it's a draw. Just feels like a draw to me.
It does feel like a draw. It's a very interesting game. We saw this at the last match of the previous qualifying cycle as well, and it was a pretty tight affair. We know that Ecuador has given Argentina some very, very tight games in recent years because they are such a talented side as well, and Argentina just hasn't had an easy time against them, despite the amount of quality that Argentina may have. So yeah, this is going to be a super interesting game. It's in Guayaquil, so at least it's not like in the altitude of Quito, it's at sea level, but still, it's a massive challenge for Argentina. And I think that it's a game that Argentina needs to take seriously, despite us being, both teams are actually secured to be at the World Cup, but I think that Argentina needs to take it seriously because it's still a very, very good test of what a competitive team could be at the World Cup. And yeah, it's going to be an amazing match. I have huge expectations about that game.
So are you also saying a draw as well?
I would expect a draw, yeah. If any of the two teams were to win, I would say Argentina. But I think that Ecuador is such a tight team defensively that I think that a draw is probably the most likely outcome.
Yeah, next is Peru versus Paraguay. I believe this one... The thing is, as bad as Peru are, I do think Peru at home isn't as bad as they are on the road. Mm-hmm. And I think Paraguay have already secured qualification by then, right? So
likely, yeah.
So I'll probably just stick on the fence, say draw.
Yeah, I could see something similar happen. Like Paraguay are not the strongest offensive team, so playing on the road against Peru, I don't see Paraguay necessarily take the initiative, and I think that Peru are definitely going to have chances in this game. I could see either team win it, honestly, and I could see a draw as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Peru win this game, to be honest. But yeah, Peru doesn't really have the quality. They have not shown a lot, but maybe they are, motivated to at least end the campaign on a high note in front of their home crowd. But that's about it. There's not much to play for in this game, but I probably go for a draw as well. And yeah, it's going to be a good test for Paraguay as well, who I think should have secured qualification by this point.
Yeah. Next is Venezuela versus Colombia. Now, this is a big one because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, I believe Venezuela and Colombia have a big rivalry, right?
It's kind of a rivalry. If you ask, I think that it's more of a rivalry on Venezuela's side. Like, Colombia probably doesn't care as much, but Venezuelans, do have some beef with Colombia. And it's also a massive game because, like we were talking before, Venezuela are on the fight for the Intercontinental playoff spot, so this is a massive game for them. We assume that Bolivia lost to Colombia and that Venezuela lost to Argentina. So if both of those things happened, the point difference is still only 1 point going into this final match day. And so everything is decided on this match day. And yeah, Venezuela play at home. They are still unbeaten at home, so that is big for Venezuela. It wouldn't surprise me if the first game that they lose is this one when the pressure is on. But, there's going to be a lot of pressure for Venezuela with the home fans who are going to be at a packed stadium expecting to make it into the Intercontinental playoff spots and, keep that dream of making their first World Cup alive. It's going to be a massive game. It's probably Venezuela's most important game in their history, if I'm being honest. And it's going to be super, super tight. I don't know where to go with this one. I think I'm going to say another draw, but it's going to be super, super close, and I could see this one go either way. And I think this is like the main game to look forward to, because whatever happens this and in the Bolivia game is going to determine who gets the Intercontinental playoff spot.
Yeah. I feel like because Colombia have already secured the qualification, I would imagine like them beating Bolivia, they'll probably just play their B team or kind of rotate here. And I think Venezuela will take full advantage. And I'm going to go for Venezuela to narrowly win this one, like a 1-0 or something. Like it'll be very close. I think they'll be extremely motivated. I think they'll get the job done. So I could also see this being a draw, and even Colombia could win this. I wouldn't be shocked. Like anything can happen here. But I'm going to go with Venezuela to win this one. Maybe I'm being too emotional here, but I'm going to go with them to win. It's going to be it'll probably be an ugly win, but I'll probably say. So
fair enough.
But a win is a win. It doesn't matter how you win.
Mm-hmm.
Next is Bolivia versus Brazil. Ooh, this is a tight one. Interesting one. Brazil will probably rotate in this one, and it will be interesting to see if Bolivia can do it. They do it, man? It's a tough one.
This is like, obviously, we mentioned the most important game for Venezuela, and this is the most important game for Bolivia. We know that Bolivia are strictly a home team, and they will be playing in El Alto at 4,000 meters above sea level in a horrible pitch. And I think that the game is going to be played at night, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's also extremely cold. I cannot wait for the press conference where Carlo is going to complain about everything. But it's gonna be massive scenes right there. It's gonna be a packed stadium of Bolivians as well. What Bolivia needs to do, they need to win this game and hope that Venezuela doesn't win their game, and they'll be in the Intercontinental playoff spot. And we know that Brazil usually really struggles in the altitude. I believe that they actually won away to Bolivia in the last campaign, but that was like a weird occasion. Like usually Brazil doesn't win this game. It's either a draw or a Bolivia win. And so I think that Bolivia is going to be incredibly motivated as well. I just don't know if they'll have the quality to see it through and get the result they need to qualify to the World Cup. Brazil are also like under pressure to try and perform and get good performances. So I don't think that Brazil is going to take this game lightly. So I'm going to say, I think it's my fourth draw in a row, because I don't see who actually pushes through in this one.
I'm going to say Bolivia just wins this one on the sheer fact of the home advantage, meaning that both will win, but Venezuela edged through because they got 1 point. So I think Venezuela just wins through.
We both have the same result at the end. Like I'm saying that they both get a draw, and so Venezuela makes it through, and they both win, and so Venezuela makes it through. Yeah,
and then the final game we got Chile versus Uruguay. This is pretty much a dead rubber. For this one,
go ahead.
I think I'll probably play it safe and say draw. I'll play it safe.
Fair. I probably don't want to predict 5 draws. I think that's a bit unreasonable. But like you said, dead rubber game. Chile trying to finish off the campaign that has been absolutely horrible. Try to give a good impression at home. Well, Uruguay already qualified, but they will have to give a good performance as well, like to show that they are not mid or whatever, and that they can actually perform at the World Cup. And so I'm going to say that Uruguay is going to narrowly win this one, but it wouldn't surprise me if they drop points as well. But there's not much to play for here. Like the two main games are the Venezuela and the Bolivia game, and maybe the Ecuador-Argentina is like an interesting matchup. But this game is just dead rubber, like you said.
Yeah, so anyways, there you have it, man. That is our predictions for the CONEMBOL World Cup, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy this series with Rank. It's been great to have Rank here on the channel, and we look forward to the final set of games, man. Remember, guys, like and subscribe to both of our channels. I'll leave the description below to his channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one, man. Peace out.
Peace.
Okay, now it's time for me to record the UEFA section of World Cup qualifiers. So we have Group A. We got Germany, Slovakia, Northern Ireland, Luxembourg. So we finally have all the groups kicking off in UEFA, guys. So let's start with this one. We got Luxembourg versus Northern Ireland. I'm going to say this ends in a draw. I think this will be a good result here. Luxembourg, I don't really rate that highly, but I think because of the fact Northern Ireland's away, I just don't think they'll get the job done, and I think so ends in a draw. Slovakia versus Germany. Now, this is one that I think Slovakia could surprise because we know with Slovakia, guys, they're a very interesting team. Like I feel like they're one of those teams that can really give a good game against a top nation. We saw in the Euros last year where they almost knocked England out of the Euros, which was insanity. If it wasn't for Jude Bellingham. So, and just because of the fact that Slovakia's at home, I really think they'll be motivated extremely up for it. But I do feel like at the end of the day, Germany just have far too much quality. I think Germany will just simply win this one. Will it be convincing? Probably not. But they'll get the job done. And that's what really matters in the day. It doesn't matter how you win, it's just do you win, right? And so I do think Germany will beat Slovakia. I think Slovakia could get a result, maybe even a draw, potentially, or even win this one. But I think Germany will get the job done. Luxembourg versus Slovakia. I'm going to say it ends in another. I think this ends in another draw for Luxembourg. I just feel like Luxembourg, for me, have fallen off, even though they have two home games. I don't think they'll get either wins. I think both will end draws, and I think Germany will beat Northern Ireland. So I feel like the game that's the most exciting from a neutral point of view is Slovakia versus Germany because I really do feel like that one, anything can happen. I think any scenario is possible in that one. But the rest of the other ones, I think it's pretty obvious what's going to happen. Moving to the Group B, we got here Switzerland, Sweden, Slovenia, Kosovo. We got Slovenia versus Sweden. This is a really interesting one to call. We know how good Sweden's attack is. You got Isak Gyökeres in particular. We got Slovenia as a very difficult team to play against. They're very difficult. They're very very difficult to beat. So I think this ends in a draw though because I just feel like Slovenia are just solid at home, and I just feel like it's just going to end in a draw. I just feel like I just think this is going to end in a draw. And yeah, I just think Slovenia just draws too much, which will ultimately hurt them in this group. But I do think they'll draw this one, though, in my opinion. Switzerland versus Kosovo. I think Switzerland should win this one for sure. Sweden should beat Kosovo, and I think Switzerland to beat Slovenia. So I think the most interesting game here is that Slovenia-Sweden one because I do feel like if Slovenia wins this one, it makes it interesting, and if Sweden wins, it makes it interesting, and if it ends in a draw, just keeps them fight going. So I'm really interested to see how that one goes because I think any of the three scenarios can happen. And the other ones, I feel like it's very obvious for which teams will win. Moving to Group C, we got here Denmark, Greece, Scotland, Belarus. We got Greece versus Belarus. I think Greece should definitely beat Belarus without a doubt. Denmark versus Scotland. I think it's a really interesting one, but I think Denmark is going to win this one just by the fact they're at home. But we know Scotland is still decent. Belarus versus Scotland. Scotland should win this one for sure. And Greece versus Denmark. I'm going to say ends in a draw. I think Denmark will hold Greece to a draw. But we'll say this though: if Greece wins, this group is very interesting. So I really hope Greece wins, just to make the group interesting from a narrative point of view. But objectively speaking, I do feel like it's going to end in a draw. And so I feel like the game that's going to be the most exciting here from a neutral point of view is Greece-Denmark because I feel like that game, anything can happen there. The other games, though, I feel like it's pretty obvious for which team is going to win. Group D, we got France, Ukraine, Iceland, Azerbaijan. Got Iceland versus Azerbaijan. For me, Iceland should destroy Azerbaijan without doubt. Ukraine versus France. I think France has got this. Azerbaijan versus Ukraine. Ukraine's got this. I think France versus Iceland. France has got this. I'll be honest with you guys. I feel like all these games, we have a clear win. I don't see any draws happening here. I think everything's straightforward here. I think the only game I can maybe see potentially a draw is maybe Ukraine versus France because Ukraine's a team that can do it on their day. They're very inconsistent and sometimes they show up against top teams, but I don't know, man. I just feel like France have too much for them. But we'll see, man, because I did remember in the last qualifying cycle, I think it was in the 2022, Ukraine did hold France to 2 draws. So maybe Ukraine could do the same thing here. But regardless, France should still have enough quality to prevail. But yeah, I'm going to go with France to win. But honestly, Ukraine could maybe get a draw. I wouldn't be shocked. Group E, we got Spain, Turkey, Georgia, Bulgaria. We got Georgia versus Turkey. I remember this game. This was one of the best games of the Euros last year, man. This game was awesome to watch. I remember this game was so fun. But this game deliver again here. And this being the World Cup qualifiers was so much at stake here. And Georgia being at home, I'm going to say it ends in a draw. I think it's going to end in a very high-scoring draw. I could take a 2-2 or 3-3 draw. And I think it'll be a very exciting one. I'm very excited to see how this one pans out. I'm going to say it ends in a draw. Spain to beat Bulgaria. Georgia to beat Bulgaria. And I think Spain to beat Turkey versus Spain. Now, that's interesting, guys. That's a very interesting one. Obviously, Spain playing the hostile Turkish atmosphere. You know what? Just because Turkey's at home, I'm gonna say it ends in a draw. Actually, I think it ends in a draw. I think Turkey will hold Spain to a draw because they're at home, and we know how the atmosphere in Turkey is. Like it's incredible. So I'm gonna say it ends in a draw, which wouldn't be so great for Spain, but I think for Spain, as long as they don't lose, I think they're still in a fine position. So I'm gonna say it ends in a draw there. Indeed. As we move to Group F, we got Portugal, Hungary, Republic, Ireland, Armenia. Armenia versus Portugal. Portugal should win this without a doubt. Ireland versus Hungary is a really interesting one, really close one to call. I'm going to say it ends in a draw. I think both teams are just around the same level, in my opinion. And I feel like a draw actually benefits Hungary more, in my opinion. Armenia versus Republic of Ireland. I'm going to go with Republic of Ireland to win. And Hungary versus Portugal. Portugal, of course, to win. So, really, I think the game that's the most exciting here from a neutral point of view is probably Republic of Ireland versus Hungary. And the rest of the games, I think we have a clear, obvious winner. Moving to Group G, this is the first group that we finally we had. This is the first one we actually have some results to discuss about. So as you can see, Finland is top with 7 points. Netherlands is second with 6 points. Poland is third with 6. Lithuania fourth with 2, and Malta bottom with 1. Keep in mind though, Netherlands, even though the second in the group, they have 2 games to still be played. So yeah, we got Lithuania versus Malta. I'm going to say ends in a draw at the Battle of the Minnows. Netherlands for Poland. Netherlands should win this one. In my personal opinion, I think too good for Poland. Lithuania versus Netherlands. Netherlands should obviously win. And Poland versus Finland. I think this time around Poland gets revenge. And I think Lewandowski will be back because I think they sacked the manager after that Finland defeat. So Lewandowski refused to play under that current manager and now gone. So I feel like now it's safe, and I think Poland should get the job done. Group H, we got Bosnia, Herzegovina, Austria. Bosnia Herzegovina with 9 points. Austria with 6. Romania, Austria with 6, and Cyprus with 3. And San Marino bottom with 0. We got Austria versus Cyprus. Austria should definitely win. Bosnia Herzegovina versus San Marino. Bosnia should win. Bosnia versus Austria. Now this is a really interesting one to call. We've seen how good Bosnia has been. The qualifiers, they actually been a lot better than I anticipated them to be. So you know what, guys? I think Bosnia can get something here, guys. I think Bosnia can hold Austria to a draw here. I think they'll get up. This will be a huge point for them, and so I think it will end in a draw. And Cyprus or Romania, of course, Romania to beat Cyprus. So really, I think the Bosnia versus Austria game is the game to look forward to. Moving to Group I, we got Norway with 12 points, Israel with 6, Italy with 3, and Estonia with 3, and Moldova 0. So looking very interesting here, guys. We got Moldova versus Israel. Obviously, this ends in an Israel win. Israel should be winning this one on a neutral venue, and yeah, or is it actually away from home? Away, sorry. Italy versus Estonia. Italy should win this one. The Israel versus Italy. Now, this is a game that I could see Italy drop points in, but I feel like because it's Italy and they have so much pedigree, I think they should be able to beat this one. But I will say this though, right now, I could see Israel getting results here. They could get a draw, dare I even say a win. I think a win is very possible, but I think Italy should still do it. I think Italy should still win, but I wouldn't be shocked if Italy don't win this. And Norway versus Moldova, Norway to win. So I think the game that's the most exciting from a neutral point of view is the Israel-Italy game, simply because there's so much question marks with Italy. We don't know how. We have so much question marks on their attack. And Israel, we know this team has a lot of controversy off the pitch. So I don't want to get into that, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Group J, we got North Macedonia with 8 points, Wales with 7, Belgium with 4, Kazakhstan with 3, and Liechtenstein with bottom with 0. So we got Kazakhstan versus Wales. I think this ends in a draw here. I think Kazakhstan have shown how good they can be, so I think they'll end this one, get a draw here. And Wales have not been that great on the road in particular. We saw they almost lost to North Macedonia on the road, so I think this will be kind of a good draw here. Belgium to obviously beat Liechtenstein, North Macedonia beat Liechtenstein, and Romania to Belgium to beat Kazakhstan. So really, I think the most interesting game here is probably Kazakhstan versus Wales. Group K, we got England with 9 points, Albania with 5, Serbia with 4, Latvia with 4, and Andorra bottom with 0. So we got Latvia versus Serbia. Serbia should obviously win this one. England should beat Andorra. Then Albania versus Latvia. Albania should win. And then Serbia versus England. Now, this is a game that I think we could get a shock. I think England could potentially lose this one. But I do think England have too much quality, and for that reason, I think England will win. But I wouldn't be surprised if Serbia gets a result. I think this could be a draw. Serbia could even win this one, but I think England should get the job done. But yeah, Serbia-England is definitely the best game. September for sure. Now moving to Group L, the final group we got here: Czech Republic 9 points, Croatia with 6, Montenegro with 6, Faroe Islands with 3, and Gibraltar bottom with 0. So we got Faroe Islands with Croatia. Croatia should win this one. Montenegro versus Czech Republic. Czech Republic should win this one. And Gibraltar versus Faroe Islands, battle of the mids. Minnows, I think ends in a draw, and I think Croatia beat Montenegro. So there you have it, man. Those are my UEFA predictions. Hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know your predictions comments below, and we'll see how this ages.